Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Flock's Nest Sports Podcast. I, as always, am one of your hosts, Dallas, repping 52 of the Baltimore Ravens, bringing the flock.
I'm Brendan. I'm the other half, wearing 54, Bobby Wagner of the Seattle Seahawks. And as 12, I bring the nest.
We really miss you guys. Sorry we didn't do a video last week with the holiday schedule personally and within the NFL. Things just got a little hectic and we didn't quite have time. But we got a really great episode for you guys. Obviously, we're going to talk the Ravens and the Seahawks. We don't really have any breaking news today, so we will probably have a small section later about just top stories in the NFL and some things we're looking at outside of our teams going into week 18 and, of course, Black Monday. We'll discuss that as well. But yeah, great episode for you guys. Stick around and let's just get into it.
All right. I guess I'll just kick us off with the Seahawks.
Heck yeah.
And for anyone wondering, I am sick, so if I'm coughing or drinking tea, that's why. So hopefully we still have a good episode, but a little under the weather, but should still be great. All right, so back to week 16, because we're going to go back talk about the weeks we missed, just to give you kind of an idea. Obviously, Seahawks faced the Vikings in week 16 at home. The Seahawks lost 24-27. Kind of a gut-wrenching loss for the Seahawks. Kind of took away a lot of chances for the Seahawks to make the playoffs in that game. Just an unfortunate game in which the Vikings really were just the better team. So that's really that. Offensively, Geno went out. Geno was hurt going into the game due to the injury he sustained in the Packers game the week prior, and that knee just didn't look right. Had moments where he just couldn't drive the ball down the field like he normally would. Wasn't able to scramble as much, do a lot of that move around the pocket, moving around, get out of the pocket, pick up the yards he could. He didn't really do that a whole lot in this game, which I did think limited the Seahawks offense. Overall, this game was pretty solid from the offense. You know, that Vikings defense is really good, so to be able to put 24 points on the board, they seemed pretty solid and they were moving the ball well. They still showed why I don't think Ryan Grubb should be the coordinator next year. They got away from the run game really quickly. Even though they had Walker in the lineup, they still just couldn't get that run game going, and that was part of the problem down the stretch. Geno Smith had 2 interceptions, so you know that continues to be a problem. One of them was in last drive of the game, has to make something happen, less than like 40 seconds to go. Tries to force it down the field, gets intercepted. The one prior definitely was more on Geno, but just with the offensive struggles we're having with running the ball, all these things, it's, you know, I do think Geno's part of the problem, but it's not the main problem right now. And with this offense the way it is, I think Grubb, just as a play caller and the philosophy he's bringing, just doesn't fit the Seahawks. And we kind of saw that with this game, and then we'll talk about the next game and how that was really exemplified. But overall, I thought the offense played pretty well this week. Onto the defense. This is probably one of the better offenses this defense has played in recent time. And it showed that the Vikings offense just kind of tore up the Seahawks. You know, you look at 27 points, that's not bad. You know, that's like it's still high scoring, but it's not you're getting demolished out there. But it just felt like whenever the Seahawks needed a stop, they couldn't get it. Justin Jefferson had like 120 something yards, 10 catches, and 2 touchdowns. He was kind of just destroying us, tearing us apart. Sam Darnold didn't turn the ball over, which was huge in this game. He had just a really clean game and was just getting the job done. And I think it just shows that defense isn't quite there yet, which is fine. This is Mike Macdonald's first year. And we saw incredible improvement in this defense from the beginning of the year till now. I think if this game happens in the first 8 weeks, I think we see a significantly different scoring. I think it's similar to what the Lions did to us in terms of they're putting up 30 and going for 40 points on the day. Um, that didn't happen here, so I thought the defense still played all right. Just had moments where they just couldn't get the stop when it mattered. They couldn't get they couldn't shut down Jefferson like they should have, and it from there it just spiraled. Especially with that touchdown in the final 3 minutes to Jefferson. That was a deep ball, really well thrown by Darnold, but blown coverage on the back end by Woolen and Love. Um, that just kind of sealed the deal right there. Put the Seahawks down 3, and then getting the ball back with less than enough time to go down the field to get a field goal isn't great, but it you know is what it is. Seahawks lose to what I would consider the better team. They're 12-2 at this point, maybe more. I can't remember what their actual record is now. Is it 15-2? 15-2.
I think so.
No,
Give me
14-2 because it's
that would make
17.
more sense.
Yeah, they're 14 and
Yeah.
2, so they've been great all year. So for the Seahawks, unfortunate loss, but something that I thought they hung in there with a good team in the NFC. On to the second game that happened. This was the Thursday night game against the Chicago Bears. This was in Chicago. The Seahawks get the win 6-3. Um, Thankfully, I did not torment myself and watch this game live. I'm very thankful for that, considering the game ended 6-3. Every single point scored in this game was scored in the first half. The second half was completely scoreless, so it was just boring as fuck. Kenneth Walker did not play in this game. He was put on IR prior to this game. Tweaked something in the Vikings game. He just can't stay healthy this year. He can't stay healthy, period. In his career, he's always missed at least a game or two in his career. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on with his contract coming up at the end of next season, on what they do with that. So we'll see. But, the Seahawks needed to win this game to even keep their hopes alive, and they did do it. But winning 6-3 against the Chicago Bears might as well be a loss. This team is not good. The Chicago Bears team is pretty terrible. Um, they fired their head coach, their offensive coordinator, and you've only been able to put up 6 points on them is pretty terrible. I think this game also really exemplified the fact that Ryan Grubb will not be with the Seahawks next year. I would not be surprised if come Black Monday we see him get fired that Monday. Or even if it's not fired, I kind of see this being like a mutual agreement to part ways. I don't see this continuing past this year. Like the way the Seahawks offense has been playing for most of the year and the lack of run game and the lack of sticking to the run game, I think has been really the problem. In this game, the first drive for the Seahawks was pretty damn good. Went straight down the field, rushed for like 43 yards, going right at the Bears defense, trying to assert dominance early. We get to 3rd and 3 from the 9-yard line. A first down, it gets us goal to go, and we decide to go empty without a running back after just slamming it. Slamming it at the teeth of the defense, running all over them, and we choose to not even give them the risk of throwing the ball is crazy. Like that is so stupid to me. And to me, that drive kind of really sealed the deal, on my opinion, of Ryan Grubb. Earlier, I was kind of in the realm of, first year, there's going to be growing pains, there's these things, but we're in week 17 at this point, and you're still not learning that as an NFL coordinator, you have to be willing to run the football.
Yeah.
And they have not scored in 20 straight opening drives, or they have not scored a touchdown in 20 straight opening drives, which is just absolutely terrible. Um, they cannot be the case. Like especially when you have drives like that where you're going on the field, you are making it happen, and then at the end, you just find a way to not get it done. And that is play calling to me on that one. Um, they were lucky to even get away with 3 points, but it was a shit game. Um, I have no game balls for either game. I didn't think in the Vikings game anybody played like outstanding out of their mind, and in the Bears game, when the game ends 6-3, I could say the whole defense kind of deserves a game ball because they're the only reason the Seahawks won that game. But at the same time, you're playing the Bears offense. There's just not a whole ton there. I kind of expected better from this team in this game, but we didn't get it. This game did keep their playoff hopes alive for a while. Unfortunately, the strength of victory tiebreakers did not go the Seahawks' way, and the Seahawks have been eliminated from the playoffs. Um, Overall, I would consider the season relatively successful. Obviously, we're 9-8 currently, have a chance to go to, or we're 9-7 currently, have a chance to go to 10-7 on the season, which would be improvement for last year. Last year we were 9-8, missed the playoffs. This year we could go 10-7, miss the playoffs. But I do think we've seen like massive improvements with this team, especially defensively, considering we were a bottom 5 unit in the league last year, and this year this defense has become a top 10 and at times even a top 5 unit in the league. So that right there, I think is already something for me that just like that turnaround was key. This offense needs to figure their shit out, but I do think getting a new coordinator in and getting that right will make this a playoff team. So a lot to watch for in the offseason. Obviously, now that the Seahawks are eliminated, I'll have more time to kind of delve into the team and the team building and getting um, kind of what I want them to do and what I think they'll do. I'll kind of wait until after this next game against the Rams, but it should be fun to like look into and see what we can do as a team to get into the playoffs next year and what it kind of means for the coaching staff and the GM and everything like that. And kind of where I see this team going next year. So it should be interesting to do that. That's kind of my plan since the Seahawks are in the playoffs, rather than talking about a game, talk about each week kind of what I think the Seahawks can do or any news with them and stuff like that. So that's my plan. Now the Seahawks have been eliminated. Um, but shitty. I would still consider the season a success just with the progress I think they've made on defense, and I think Mike McDonald is the right head coach for the job, and I think we'll really see what he's made out of. I definitely think just based on what's going on, what he's done this season, getting rid of both of your linebackers midway through the season that were starting for you. I think he's proven that if you're not going to cut it, you're not going to cut it, and you're gone. And I think that's what he's going to do with Grubb. And we'll get a new offensive coordinator in here. Maybe after Ryan Grubb is officially fired, I'll kind of talk about who I think are the main candidates for that job because I do kind of have a short list now. But I'll wait for that to actually be confirmed before I talk about where I think that'll go. But yeah, so that's really it for the Seahawks. I'll talk so much more about where I think this team can go, the cap situation and everything after week 18 and we get done with
Yeah.
games.
No, that'll be good. And it'll be good to hear what you're looking for going into the draft and into the off season. Um, we talked a little bit about this week that you can kind of give a pass like we're seeing McDonald's defense take time, but it is building towards where it wants to be.
Yeah.
But offensively, when he doesn't have his like first or second choice of coordinator,
Even then, I just think
football.
I, I kind of think
There we go. Oh, go ahead. You were frozen. Sorry.
oh, I kind of think that during the hiring process, Grubb kind of sold him that he could do what McDonald wants out of philosophy. I think
Hmm.
McDonald wants to be more like a Harbaugh style, where it's more of a punch you in the face. We're gonna run through. We're gonna be a
Yeah,
physical football team. We're gonna hit you with run. We're gonna be a physical defense. We're gonna hit you in the pass game when it's needed, and we'll hit you in that hard, but it's still gonna be more focused on the run game. And I think Grubb kind of sold him on that he could be that, and then Grubb just ended up
doing the exact opposite.
going to what he knows and what he's comfortable with, and that I think was the issue.
Yeah,
And that's it. You just got to find someone that fits McDonald's mentality, fits fits what he wants to do as a football team. I think
yeah,
that's the only thing I'll say wasn't successful. I think as a defense, we found our identity and how we want to play. But I think as a team, we haven't because the offense just isn't there yet. And we haven't found that offensive identity that we're looking for. So I think that's like the only thing that I would consider to not be successful. And what I was looking for to begin this season, as I kind of said in my predictions, I thought the Seahawks would go 9-8. But I wanted to see a defensive identity and a team identity. And I don't think we're seeing that team identity yet because of where the offense is at.
that's
But
fair.
all that could change going into the next season. So should
Yeah,
be fun, should be interesting.
heck yeah.
Um, we'll kind of see where it goes.
Right on. Alrighty. Well, moving on. We're gonna talk a little Ravens football. I am not going to get into both of their games specifically. The game against the Steelers and the game against the Texans were basically the same thing. So I'm just going to talk about all phases of the ball, the things they're doing really well the last couple of weeks, things I'd like to see a little bit better at, and where I think this team is headed going into Week 18, and what I think it means for them playoff wise. So getting into it, 2 weeks ago they were at home versus the Steelers, winning 34-17 convincingly. And then at Texans following week on Christmas Day, winning 31-2. If you're unclear about that, the Ravens gave up a safety on the offense, and that was the only points the Texans scored all day. So offensively, these were the best games the O line has played all year. Uh, Limited penalties, blocking really well against good teams with good pass rushers. Um, he had a little bit of a breakdown behind the line. We saw him having to do more of his scrambling, getting out of the pocket. But I would rather Lamar have to do that than have penalties. Penalties kill drives. Lamar's legs can and do keep drives alive. So to see, even when they had a breakdown of the line, they didn't revert back to the penalties. They just kept going. Was really exciting to see. I think it shows a lot of growth. Coming out of the bye and after the Giants game, we're seeing this team get better at their deficiencies at the right time. Um, a lot of people were commenting kind of in the middle of the season about how many carries Derrick Henry was getting each week. They were very public about not wanting Henry to overload himself, especially in the beginning or the middle of the season. They wanted him fresh for the second half and going into the playoffs. This team cares less about the regular season record. They want a Super Bowl. We're seeing that now. We're seeing Henry's carries come back up. A lot of carries, over 100 yards against both the Steelers and the Texans, playing really well. So it's great to see. I wasn't worried. We're still seeing Lamar throw the ball. It's not just a Derrick Henry led team, but with him out there, they don't have to throw it as many times, and his throws have significantly more impact. So that's been awesome. Zay Flowers officially hit 1,000 yards on the season. He did not have that last season, and this is only Lamar's second 1,000 yard wide receiver. Hollywood Brown was in 2021, but that was it. So awesome job to Zay. I think we're not only seeing his maturity growth from last season, but we're seeing obviously Lamar's become a better passer. He is throwing the ball more, hitting the open man more. So that's been really awesome. Defensively, penalties again have been way, way down. Not a ton of PIs, but a lot of pass breakups. The pass defense went from the last in the league to these last few weeks in the top five, which has been fantastic. Everybody's playing at a really great level. They finally, I think, got all of the pieces moved around. The players they wanted benched. We still haven't seen Marcus Williams. I'm not convinced we're going to without or barring any injuries. We're seeing our Darius Washington really come alive. We're seeing Humphrey play at a really high level. Moving Hamilton back to true safety has allowed him to call the plays for that back half. So we're not seeing the breakdowns in communication or the busted coverage plays anymore. It's also giving Roquan more time to get his linebacker set. So we're seeing the run game defense as well as the pass rush do a lot better. Van Noy and Matabike both had two really great weeks. Michael Pierce had a great week against the Steelers. Van Noy has hit a career high of 11 and a half sacks with one game left to go. So it's really great to see him playing at that level. I think the important thing for the defense is it's not just you can look at them and go, oh, they're clearly playing better. It's you can point to the different things they've done this season that have got them to this level. It's not just they woke up and decided, oh, hey, today we can play football. So I'm less concerned about them reverting backwards because they've made changes to get to this level. Um, and yeah, we're just really seeing Zach Worth's defense come alive. We're seeing the mentality that the Ravens are used to having. We're seeing them get after the quarterback and the run game really well. But they are also a successful defense against the pass. Um, so that's been really great. Special teams, Tucker has been perfect since the bye. Um, that's great. Just keep it up. It's hard to get super excited about special teams, but you're really depressed about it when it doesn't work. So I will say that's another one. We can point to something. He is no longer doing kickoffs. Um, Jordan Stout, the punter, has been doing the kickoffs the last couple weeks, and Tucker is just doing field goals and PATs. I'm not sure if they determined it was a leg strength thing, a you only have so many kicks a day in you. I'm not sure quite what led to that decision, but that is what the big change they've made. And Tucker has been perfect since. So, he did do an interview on it. I know every competitor wants to be out there all the time, but obviously the team needs him, and as a fan base, we need him to make the kicks that are worth points and let Tucker do, or no, I'm sorry, let Stout do kickoffs, especially when there are times the Ravens don't punt a whole ton. So this kind of lets Stout get a little bit more involved. I'm happy with the change as long as it continues to work. Injury news. Only thing. If you watch the Steelers game, a really scary hit on Justice Hill. went flying up in the air onto the sideline, came down, and just knocked out cold. Did immediately leave the game with a concussion. He has been out since. Coach Harbaugh says currently he's just sick, which is why he hasn't returned to practice. You can't actually clear concussion protocol if you can't return to practice, and he can't return while he's sick, so he's not having concussion symptoms, but he is still technically under concussion protocol. Few guys on the team have been sick these last 2 weeks, but everybody's played through it. I am not sure that I expect Hill to play this week against the Browns. Coming off not having any practice time and with the concussion, with the illness, I just don't expect it. Keaton Mitchell played really well against the Texans. We're seeing his yards go up. And Rasheen Ali, the rookie, is still available. Didn't get a ton of carries, but I do expect if they decide Hill isn't going to go, there's a chance we'll see him more. But I think we'll mainly see Henry and Mitchell if Justice Hill can't go. Um, Instead of doing game balls, I am going to do the Ravens Pro Bowl list. They had a league high of 9 players make the Pro Bowl. The next highest was the Vikings, who had 7. The Lions had 6. And then everybody else higher up had 5. So, really, congratulations to the Ravens. Those players are Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Patrick Ricard, Zay Flowers, Tyler Linderbaum, Roquan Smith, Namdi Matabike, Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton. 4 of them are meant to be starters on the Pro Bowl list. Derrick Henry, Ricard, Roquan, and Hamilton are the 4 active starters for the Pro Bowl. Only game ball I want to give out that wasn't on the list. I kind of get it, but was Mark Andrews. He has had 2 really great weeks. He got his first touchdown pass against the Steelers. Um, continues to be Lamar's safety blanket. You see it when things disintegrate quickly, when the pocket breaks down quickly, and he doesn't have time. He always knows where Mark is, and Mark is always prepared for it, whether he's supposed to get the ball or not. You saw it during the Steelers game. He was supposed to be blocking, but the line was collapsing, so he turned around to look at Lamar, and Lamar just pitched him the ball. He took off and ran with it. That's just kind of what Mark does. That's the level of security he brings, the level of play he brings, never giving up on the play. He knows Lamar very well. Lamar's touchdown pass to Likely against the Texans. You see Mark get pushed out rather than re-engage and come back. He knows he'll just screw up Lamar's eyes, so he just stays out of it and lets him and Likely figure it out. So he just continues to be that presence, that force. Him and Likely are making a phenomenal pair. So he wasn't on the Pro Bowl list. It was Travis Kelsey, kind of bullshit. Mark's had definitely a better year. And Bowers, that I do think is deserved. Um, Kelsey, I think there's an argument against that. He hasn't had a great year statistically, just because that's what their offense has been doing. So maybe Mark could have been in there instead of that, or literally somebody else. But that's just me. Especially because I'm confused if Patrick Mahomes wasn't a Pro Bowler. It's fine. We don't have to get into it. but that's the only game ball I want to give outside of the Pro Bowl list. Everybody else, um, really great job. I think this team has played really well, especially in the second half of the season. And to see some defensive players stand out even when they've had defensive struggles, I think is really great for them. Um, and Zay Flowers, this is he is the only one. This is his first Pro Bowl. He is also the first Ravens wide receiver to make the Pro Bowl as a wide receiver. Jacoby Jones and Jeremiah Lewis made exactly made the Pro Bowl, but as punt returners. So Zay Flowers is the first wide receiver
Hmm.
to make the Pro Bowl as a wide receiver. So really awesome for him. Like I said, I think we're seeing his maturity and his growth. I think last season in his rookie year, you saw a lot of that kind of juvenile stuff. We're seeing him grow up and we're seeing it pay off, and that's been really awesome.
Nice.
So congratulations to him and to all of those guys. Hopefully, though, nobody's playing in the Pro Bowl because we're all at the playoffs, so and at the Super Bowl. So hopefully, but we shall see. We know Lamar won't be there no matter what happens. He
Probably.
has never attended a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, that seems about right.
So
Well,
that's it for Ravens.
I guess really quickly, since you mentioned it,
Mhm.
the Seahawks had one guy make the Pro Bowl, just one. Devin Witherspoon,
Nice.
corner. So he makes his second Pro Bowl, second consecutive Pro Bowl. Um, so good for him. They also had 5 alternatives, and I know for a fact one of the alternatives will make the Pro Bowl. Why they didn't just give it to him now? I don't know, but they didn't.
Gotcha.
Leonard Williams is an alternative,
Uh,
and Dexter Lawrence is hurt, so he's not attending the Pro Bowl. So if they don't give it to Leonard Williams, I'm gonna riot because I felt like he
that's
deserved
fair.
it regardless. But you know, of the 5 reserves, it was Leonard Williams, JSN, Boye Mafe, Michael Dixon, and Julian Love.
Nice.
Obviously they're reserves, so if anything, if like an NFC team has a couple guys and they make the Super Bowl, those guys can be called up, but they're not on the actual Pro Bowl roster, which is why the Pro Bowl is a fake thing. Um, when you have Tyler Huntley as a Pro Bowl quarterback,
No, that's fair.
it's a
That's
fake
fair.
it's a fake accomplishment.
That was a rough year.
But
Um,
congrats to Witherspoon, all the same.
awesome. Alrighty, guys. Well, instead of getting into our games of the week, because we only had the one mentioned for week 16, we're just going to jump into playoff picture, how week 18 can impact this, what we're looking at, and how the games have kind of shaken everything out thus far.
Yeah,
Brendan, do you, as our resident Seahawks fan, want to talk to us about the NFC playoff picture?
yeah, I can absolutely talk about the NFC playoff picture. So we'll start at the top. Um, Probably the most interesting is the NFC has not been decided yet. There is a very interesting thing going to happen. The Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings play Sunday night. That game is going to decide who wins the NFC, which is kind of funny because whoever wins that wins the NFC North and the NFC. Whoever loses ends up as the 5th seed entering the playoffs, which is kind of fucked up considering whoever loses is going to be like 14-3. So it'll be a really, really good matchup, but that is going to determine who wins the NFC North and in turn wins the NFC and who gets the 5th seed. The Eagles are locked into the 2 seed. They won the NFC East, so they're in. They get that 2 seed all nice and locked up. The Rams have locked up the NFC West. As I said, the Seahawks were eliminated due to strength of victory. So no matter what happens, even if the Seahawks go 10-7 and tie the Rams have the tiebreakers above us. Kind of shitty, but that is what it is. The only remaining thing that can be decided is the NFC South, Tampa Bay and Atlanta. I don't know who those two play right now, but it's not each other. So Tampa Bay needs to win, Atlanta needs to win, and a Tampa Bay loss for that to even matter. But
Tampa plays New Orleans.
Tampa plays New Orleans. That means Atlanta plays the Panthers.
Yep.
So in order for Atlanta to leapfrog Tampa Bay needs to lose, and the Falcons need to win. Atlanta winning is a pretty solid possibility. Tampa Bay losing is not. So if I had to guess, Tampa Bay makes the playoffs 10-7, sneaking in right there at the back end as the winner of the NFC South. And then I'm pretty sure the remaining seeds have been decided. I believe it is the whoever wins or whoever loses out of the Vikings and the Lions get the 5th seed. The Commanders and the Green Bay Packers could move up or down depending on what happens. As of now, the Commanders hold the tiebreaker for the 6th seed, but if they lose and the Green Bay Packers win, Green Bay gets the 6th seed, and the Commanders get the 7th seed. So pretty much everybody's locked into a playoff spot in the NFC, other than Atlanta and Tampa Bay have to be figured out in the NFC South. And then in terms of seeding, really the only things that can change are the 1 seed, 5 seed, and then the bottom end pretty much can all kind of move around. But other than that, the NFC is pretty much done and is set and is ready to go for playoffs.
Nice. That Lions Vikings game, I think it's one of the most interesting and weighted
Yeah,
regular season games there have ever been.
because
With two really good teams.
very rarely do you see the last week of the season the number 1 seed is available, and the 2 teams that could get it are playing against each other, and
Yeah.
it's pretty much winner takes all. Winner gets the bye, winner gets the division, and all these things. Rarely you see 2 teams in the same division challenging for that number 1 seed. So this is kind of a rare thing, but it's also going to be really, really fun to see, and it should be a fantastic game. And we'll end up talking more about it later because
Yeah. Definitely going to be good. Definitely, I think one of the main watches on Sunday.
yeah,
So, um, gonna be watching that. I don't really think I have a dog in the fight in that regard, but the Lions could really use the bye.
yeah,
With all their injuries, um, whether you think they should have rested against the 49ers is irrelevant to the conversation. They didn't.
they
Um,
did still need to win. So
like they went out there and they balled, and that's who they are, and that's the mentality Campbell has set. But they could use the bye and just have to play one less home playoff game. So
and
kind of
it's huge for home playoffs.
yeah,
You get if that 1 seed gets home playoffs throughout the entire.
and not to but I think any passing observer would say the Vikings had a successful season, no matter what happens. You
Mhm.
didn't think a whole ton of this season and this team going into it being quarterbacked by Sam Darnold. The Vikings were in the NFC Championship game last year. We expected a little bit more in terms of what they could do in the playoffs. And yes, they have been decimated by injury, but to see them fall to
Continue.
the 5 seed would just and then have to play on the road probably 2 or 3 games in a row to then go to the Super Bowl would be a little bit more heartbreaking.
Yeah, but we'll see. This is all going to be decided on Sunday.
Yep. Moving on to the AFC side of the ball. The Chiefs are locked into the number 1 seed, cannot be moved. The Buffalo Bills are locked into the 2 seed. The 3 seed, the Ravens currently hold. However, it is still up for grabs. Um, the Ravens have to to win the North. Um, the Texans have locked up the AFC South, so they do hold the 4 seed. Whether the Ravens or the Steelers win the North, they remain at the 4 seed. Both the Ravens and the Steelers have a better record, so it doesn't matter what happens there. They are the 4 seed. And then the 6 currently, I don't know that that has the ability to change, is the Chargers. I think they might have the 6 locked up.
I think they have the
In the
tiebreaker. They have the tiebreaker over Denver, so they have it locked up.
Yes. In the hunt is Denver. Denver needs to win against the Kansas City Chiefs,
Yep.
who have already said they're playing their backups. Um, in Week 18, on the bubble, the Dolphins and the Bengals do technically have a shot. Both those teams need a 3-game parlay to occur to make the playoffs. The Bengals need the Broncos to lose, the Dolphins to lose, and for them to win. The Dolphins need the Broncos to lose, the Steelers to lose, and for them to win. And then they would make the playoffs. More likely than not is the Broncos will be in the playoffs.
Yeah. All the Broncos need is to
To win. I thought they were gonna lock it up against the Steelers. Nope. Try again. Thought they were gonna lock it up against the Bengals last week.
But
Dunn kind of fucked that one up, didn't you, Sean?
questionable coaching. Questionable coaching.
So in lieu of that, they have to deal with it this week. I do think there's a good chance they beat the Chiefs this week, especially with them resting a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Andy Reid likes to have fun when he arrests guys. Some wacky play calling, just to see how it'll work or what it'll look like. So I do think, and this game matters to the Broncos.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a chance we see a better than not chance that they're going to beat the Chiefs on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, the the AFC playoff picture is mostly set. We
Yeah.
have 2 teams fighting over the third and the 5th spot, and a team trying to get into the 7. So not much different than the NFC, which is kind of weird. Usually they don't mirror each other.
But it's
Uh,
been but it absolutely had like other than the 1 seed needs to be locked up, it pretty much has been a mirror. Everything kind of just fell into place this
yeah,
year to where week 18 almost didn't really matter, but it matters a lot.
it's weird. I feel like we don't usually have this many teams locked in. Like there's usually more options for movement,
Yeah.
but then the things that matter a lot,
Yeah.
which is new.
But it'll be a fun week 18. There's a lot of games, a lot of really good games,
Yeah,
um, and some meaningful games. So we'll definitely see how it goes, and who makes playoffs.
heck yeah. Um, and then getting into just other storylines of the week, just kind of the top conversation points
Yep.
um, that are going around the league right now before the season wraps up. All of these things are regular season conversations. They're not playoff conversations. Um, just how we viewed the regular season. Who actually? Nope. Right back up. One of the unimportant games this week is Philadelphia at the Giants. If you do not know, Saquon Barkley uh, officially hit 2,000 yards
on the season.
last week against the Cowboys.
Yep.
He needs 101 yards to beat Eric Dickerson's all-time single-season rushing record.
Yep.
The team has announced, and Saquon has announced, it was actually a really heartbreaking video. Don't watch it if you're feeling at all emotional. That he is not going to go for it. Do you think he should? Do you think the team should let him? Do you have an opinion at all on that? I know you do. So share it with us.
So I think I kind of changed my opinion from the last time we talked about this. Because he has come out and kind of said, this was very much his decision. He was asked, by Nick Sirianni and the front office, and they were going to leave it up to him for the most part. Like, obviously, I think they kind of went out there and were like, we would prefer you to sit. But it is ultimately your choice if you want to go for the award, and Saquon has decided to not. Um, I think partly this decision really comes as this is better for the team. You don't want him getting hurt going into the playoffs, considering he is part of the reason you're going to the playoffs. He's been absolutely incredible this season. Obviously, like, it's a cool thing to go for. You know, the all-time rushing record would be amazing. But at the same time, I think he's doing what's better for the team's success than his own, which I respect. And it is very interesting. I will also say everyone kind of knew this was coming, considering he came out of the game against the Cowboys kind of late in that game after hitting 2,000 yards. So I do kind of think this has been a plan of sorts, kind of since the beginning. Um, but it's still very interesting to see um, him almost get this record, but unfortunately, he's not going to go for it. And Eric Dicker's record is going to hold for another year at least.
I vastly changed my opinion on it, actually.
Oh, so we flipped.
My original opinion was nah, like you hit 2,000. That is a great accomplishment, and it is. And then I kind of thought about it, and I think there are two moments that should have happened differently that would help this situation. Um, the first time they played the Giants, he came out and he was asked if he wanted to stay in and go for the Eagles' single game rushing record. And he said, no, let the young guys go in and get some yardage and some reps. A lot of respect for it. Should have gone back in there. Last week against the Cowboys, came out with still plenty of time left on the clock. Could have gotten more yardage. He wouldn't be so far away. Now, when you look at his average, he needs about 20 carries. Um, so maybe the first half. However, there is a chance the Giants make it their sole mission
To not let it
to
happen.
keep him from getting the record. Here's my problem. Here's my advocation for him attempting it. As it sits right now, there is a good chance he does not win MVP. He does not win Offensive Player of the Year. They do not win a Super Bowl. He does not win a Super Bowl MVP. And of this phenomenal season he's having, the only thing he will have to show for it
Is 2,000
is a
yards.
2,000-yard season. Now, only 9 players have ever done that, and that's great. But when you talk about legacy and a running back's legacy, this matters as much as they have asked of him. He has 345 carries on the year. An average for a starting good running back is about 250. So they've asked so much of him. He has done so much. I feel like he's almost owed this to be like, if nothing else, you got this. No player has ever gotten 2,000 yards more than once in their entire career. So the likelihood that he even sniffs this again, a record that has stood for over 40 years, is pretty low.
Yeah,
So I just think a Super Bowl is not a guarantee. I'm not trying to knock them. I'm not saying they're not going to make the Super Bowl or they not it's not an Eagles conversation.
it's a you
But it
can't
is
tell.
hard to win 3 playoff games and a Super Bowl. That's fact. It's hard to do. I know the Chiefs do it every fucking year. I know the Patriots do it all the time. It's hard to do. So, because that's not a guarantee, fight for him and fight for this record.
Yeah,
So, I get it. Um, he is a very unselfish player, and he will do what's asked of him, and he will do what he thinks is best for the team. I think this is one his teammates should have maybe been like, "No, we're gonna go get it for him."
hmm.
And the fucking Giants.
Yeah,
And just so we're
it,
super clear,
it would be a little funny.
any player can get hurt anytime. Like I get going, well, the risk of injury. Well, they also walk across the street. Like shit happens. Um, a Super Bowl is not a guarantee. This team has been very healthy. I say go get it for him. I don't like the call. I don't like the decision. And if they don't win a Super Bowl and he doesn't get anything,
There'll be regret.
I'm not saying it was a waste, but that's pretty heartbreaking. He's had a phenomenal year.
Yeah, it'll definitely be tough. I do think he should go for it. Like I'm still on the train. He should go for it, but I do more understand where he's coming from on why he kind of did choose. Hey, I'm not going to do this. And how why the team also decided this. It does suck. I do think you're right. I do think in terms of legacy, this might be the only thing he could get this season. Um, but we'll kind of see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Okay. Moving on.
Yeah.
Brendan, who is the MVP?
Who's the MVP? This is
Yeah.
a hard one. This is really difficult. In my opinion, it's a 3-man race. Saquon is part of that. I do feel like this is a Christian McCaffrey argument from last year. Of he's doing a lot. Unfortunately, it's a quarterback award. It tends to go to quarterbacks. It's just a fact. They tend to be the most valuable players. Um, Looking at pure stats, I would probably give it to Lamar. Just stats alone, what he's done, what's going on, I'd give it to Lamar. The problem I'm having is photo fatigue and the fact Lamar has two and Allen doesn't have any does play a factor. So I think Lamar deserves it more just based on stats and what he's done, but I think Josh Allen will win. That is my opinion. Um, I do think Josh Allen's completely deserving. He's had an incredible year. I'm not saying that to take anything away from Josh Allen. I just do
No,
think Lamar has had a better season. But Josh Allen, I do believe, will be the MVP this season.
that's fair. I think without Eric Dickerson's record, Saquon comes out of the conversation for MVP. I'm not saying he isn't. He is definitely the MVP of the Eagles. Um, Again, only 9 players have ever hit 2,000 yards in a season.
I think that's why he'll stay within the like finalist three, but he'll
Yeah,
be the Christian McCaffrey where you're there, but it's
but you're
really
not actually gonna win.
yeah, you're
Um,
there for um
yeah.
yeah.
So, I also think you can make an argument that we saw what the Eagles were last year. They are far and away better this year, and their main addition is Saquon. So, I think there's a strong argument for Saquon. As for Josh Allen and Lamar, I amazingly enough don't give a fuck. Let's just be honest about why we're voting it the way we are. Um, Josh Allen is the betting favorite and has been the betting favorite going into a season 4 years in a row. But he plays himself out of it with interceptions and turnovers. This year, hasn't done that. So because the voters have really wanted him to give him an MVP for a long time, this is kind of finally their year to do that. And like I think you said, Lamar has two. I do think that's a factor. I think it plays a factor. I do not think anything else one really has a leg up on the other, honestly. Lamar has better stats. Allen has two fewer losses. I think both have had to overcome a lot this season. I know we want to talk all about what Josh Allen didn't have around him. Someone has to catch all those block passes, just so we're super clear. Can't be that bad.
Yeah.
But Lamar has had the worst O line of his career. Josh has had one of the best. Um, they both have had bad defenses at times. Like they both had to overcome a lot. So I don't know that one gets the edge that way. I do think that Lamar's losses or Allen's extra losses versus Al- Allen's fewer losses versus Lamar's better stats kind of cancel each other out. How you then vote it to me is either personal preference or maybe how you tally up like who had more Superman moments. They both have them. They both have clear MVP moments, MVP plays, Superman plays.
Yeah.
I think it genuinely does come down to Lamar has two. Quarterback legacies are derived from Super Bowls and MVPs. We've been trying to give Josh Allen an MVP for a long time. He is going to win it. I don't necessarily think there's a wrong answer. If Lamar gets it, I think it's justified. If Allen gets it, I think it's justified. I think there's a strong, strong argument for Saquon. Probably not going to happen, but unless Joe Burrow wins it, which I've heard the argument, which I think is insane,
I mean, absolutely insane.
I don't think there's a wrong answer. Between those three, anybody else, it's weird. Don't do it.
Yeah, that's anyone else is a choice to say the least. But we will see. We'll see. I definitely
Yeah.
think it's one of those three. I do think Allen comes away with it pretty much for the exact reasons you put out there. Like I said, I do think this vote will kind of come down to the voters and voter fatigue and the fact Lamar has one too. We'll see, but that tends to be the case. It's very hard to win multiple MVPs without having other success along with it. Like we see it in basketball, we see it in other sports. That tends to happen.
Well,
Whether it's
I heard a good take the other day. Is and I think sometimes this is what's hard for me while this is some of the best stats of Lamar's career, so it's kind of crazy that like he's having his best season, but somehow it's not MVP level when it's better than his MVP seasons. But Lamar is incredible and he plays at a really high level and he does really fantastic things that jump off your screen and make you go holy shit. Um so because he always does that, at some point you have to look at other factors.
Yeah, it
And unfortunately, while his stats are phenomenal this year,
the wins is
Allen is having great success with less offensive talent or perceived offensive talent and less losses.
yeah.
So, but Lamar's always going to be great. We're always going
That's
to watch him play and go, that was fantastic.
I think a good comparison, whether it's fair or not, is Nikola Jokic the year the Nuggets won the championship. He had won two back-to-back MVPs. That's not what Lamar did, but Jokic had won back-to-back MVPs, his only two MVPs at the time. Um, and in those 2 years, that third year, he had better stats than those 2 years. He was by far and away having the best year of his career. Um, but they didn't give it to him for voter fatigue and ended up going to Joel Embiid. That season, he goes on to win the championship. The following season, he didn't have the stats he had that third year, but they were still there. He ends up winning the MVP because
Yeah.
things changed for him. It wasn't this you've won two MVPs or this regular season dominant player, but now you get to the playoffs and things aren't going well and all these things. So you're great, but you have to elevate your greatness. And I think we see
Yeah.
that a lot with like players like LeBron had that happen where at one point you could argue LeBron could have won MVP every year for like 6 years when he was in the
Yeah.
prime of his career. He won like two. So like when things like that are happening, it does just you have to elevate every year. And when you're already Lamar Jackson playing at the top level, it's hard to do that. Whereas Josh Allen has the benefit of he's been a interception machine for the past however many years he's been in the league. This year his interceptions are way down. I
You
mean,
can see a clear change to Josh Allen's game. Like we can
yeah,
sit here and go, Lamar looks like a better passer, and he is having better passer numbers. However, he also has one of the best offensive weapons sets he's ever had. Whereas Josh Allen is sitting there going, he's not putting the ball in danger anymore, and that's a him stat.
yeah, and with only I think 6 interceptions on the season, which
Yeah,
for him is astronomical. Like he's had,
crazy.
which for him he's had seasons where he's been up in I believe the 20s.
Yeah,
So for him to get down to below double digits is fantastic, and I do think that is partly why I think Josh Allen will win. Is when you just look at the improvement Josh Allen has made, it's easier to sit there and go, he's elevated his game, whereas Lamar only somewhat elevated his game
yeah.
because there's just not enough movement for Lamar to do.
Nope, I agree. I don't. I think sometimes I hear the conversation, I get really bitter about it, so I start yelling about how it should be Lamar Jackson. Um, but at the end of the day, I really don't. I don't think there's a wrong answer. I'm not gonna flip a table. If it's Allen, if it's Lamar, I might have some questions on like what ended up
Doing
swaying things that way. Um, and then if it's Saquon, I'll be like, no shit.
fair enough.
So,
Um, good.
alrighty. Keeping with this theme, offensive player of the year.
All right. I'm gonna kind of just do offensive and defensive at the same time because I do
Sounds good.
just to kind
Let's
of
do it.
combine it. Um, Offensively, I think whoever doesn't win MVP. So if it's let's just say Josh Allen wins MVP, because that's what I said. I think it then becomes a two-man race between Lamar and Saquon. Um, OPOY tends to be reserved for non-quarterbacks. That is kind of the history of the award. So I do think maybe they then give it to Saquon in that case. I think any argument for either. I think seriously, whoever doesn't win MVP of the three, it then becomes a race for OPOY, and I think it could go to either of the two. Um, I think Saquon will end up winning it, but I'm not sure. I'm just gonna go off history, and that history dictates it's not a quarterback award. Quarterbacks tend not to win. For DPOY, this one's really difficult because I don't think there's been really anybody in the league defensively that has like stood out above the rest. Obviously TJ Watt has been dominant. Miles Garrett leads the league in sacks, which I didn't even realize. I thought Miles Garrett was
Hmm.
having a down year.
I thought
Um,
so too. But no, apparently not. I
so
heard
leads the league in
that
sacks.
the other day.
The eye test though, I feel like might work against him because here's I just
And
felt
it's
like
the Browns,
like
so it's
yeah,
like,
yeah. Uh, Trey Hendrickson is tied with Garrett for leads and sacks. Patrick Surtain has been playing great all season, but there's just not been someone that's really like stood out defensively. So I think I'm gonna go probably T.J. Watt. That defense has been really good this year. He continues to be a wrecking force on that defense. So I think the familiarity, and I just think he didn't win it last year, so I think he'll end up getting it this year.
sure.
That would be my guess.
um, for offensive player of the year, I think it should come down to either Saquon or Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is currently set to triple crown,
I forgot about
and
that.
that is really hard to do. In case you don't know, it's you lead all wide receivers in targets, receptions, and yards.
It's touchdowns, receptions, yards.
Touchdowns, receptions, and yards. And he currently has it. He has to maintain through week 18 to triple crown. The last person to do that was Cooper Cup 4 years ago,
I don't think he
3 years
won
ago.
Player of the Year that year
I don't think so either. So
because that
that's
was the
kind
year
of
they won
crazy.
the Super Bowl.
Um,
I'm not sure.
so I do think those are both kind of historic things they're doing. Um,
So
both having great seasons. I think it could justifiably go there. If it goes to Joe Burrow, I may flip a table. Heard that name a lot. I will flip a table. Defensive player of the year, I feel like it should be almost Trey Hendrickson's. He's been the only bright spot in that defense, but at the same time,
that
it's
defense,
not been good enough.
yeah,
So I kind of have to agree with you. I think the argument for Hendrickson and Garrett are that of like your bright spots on a really bad team. So I think it will probably go to Watt or like a Sertan, somewhat like a,
yeah.
a corner that, but we
The
were talking the interception leader only has 7 on the year.
Yeah, and Kirby Joseph. I think Kirby Joseph could be like a really underrated pick. Has 9 interceptions on the year at
Nine.
safety. And with that Lions defense being as beat up as it is,
Mhm.
keeping them afloat the way he has with his leadership and with his ability to take the ball away, I do kind of think that brings him into the conversation. But at the same time, it's really hard for a safety to win it.
Yeah,
And I don't think 9 interceptions is enough. But I do think that is an underrated and kind of a sleeper pick. Um, just as someone that could be in the conversation, but
yeah,
probably won't end up being just because
probably
of
won't.
the
The
position he plays.
position.
Yeah,
We like sacks.
sacks and interceptions, and he has the interceptions. I just don't know if he has enough of it to like.
Yeah, to push him over
Yeah.
mediocre season by TJ Watt. And just so we're clear, it is mediocre by Watt standards. He
Yeah.
typically sits up in like the 20s. So 11
Mediocre
is pretty shitty.
mediocre for TJ Watt is like career years for like most players in the NFL.
Most
Let's
people.
be honest.
Kyle Van Noy's having a career year at 11 and a half. Um, TJ Watt's having a shitty year at 11. It's just,
It's just
it's not fair. I don't make the rules. Um,
that's just how good TJ Watt is.
Alrighty. Offensive and defensive rookies of the year.
So, offensive rookie of the year, I think this is a 3-man race. Um, I would put Bo Nix's name in the realm. He's the third. They always pick 3 finalists.
Yeah.
He's up there. Really, it's Jaden Daniels. I think quarterback leading your team to the playoffs. I think he'll win it. But I will say, if I had a vote right now, I would vote Brock Bowers, offensive rookie of the year. What he's been doing at the tight end position, uh, breaking records left and right. I think receptions by rookie tight end, yards by rookie tight end, receptions period for any rookie ever. What he's doing is absolutely incredible. So if I had a vote, I would vote Brock Bowers, but I do believe the award is going to Jaden Daniels because he's a quarterback and he's led his team to the playoffs. Simple as that.
Fair enough.
And then defensively, there is just it's a crapshoot. There's not been a defensive player this year that has really, much like defensive player of the year. There's not been a defensive rookie this year that has really stood out above the rest. Um, I'm gonna go with Jared Verse out of Los Angeles. He does lead rookies in sacks and pressures. He's just been really solid for that defense. That defense has been better than expected in LA, and he's part of the reason with his presence. So that would be my guess. There are other names like Cooper DeJean in Philadelphia has had a fantastic season, but I do think Jared Verse is the defensive rookie of the year.
Um, I think I completely agree with you on rookie or offensive. Jesus fuck. Uh, on offensive, it should be Brock Bowers. He is setting records. He has made the Pro Bowl as a rookie. He's done phenomenal things. It's probably going to go to Jaden Daniels, simply because he's the quarterback. I also think it'd be different if Jaden were more in the MVP conversation. I think because the numbers aren't quite there, and Lamar and Allen are having the seasons they're having, the only way to really give Jaden the flowers is
Offensive rookie of
making
the year.
him rookie of the year.
Yep.
So I do think it should be Brock Bowers when you're doing what he's doing with garbage at quarterback. It's impressive, but I don't have a vote. As for defensive player of the year, I did have Cooper DeJean. Um, Playing at a really high level. I do think media attention plays a part, and the Eagles are really good at look at me, much like the Cowboys are. So, which you and I have talked about. So I do think there's a good chance it goes to him. Like you said, I don't think there hasn't been anything like super stand outish. I don't think it's a clear
Race.
it's obviously somebody.
Yeah.
Um and defensively numbers are just kind of down this year. We're seeing a record number of teams put up a record number of yards and points. And I think that also makes it hard
For
for one
defenses.
team or one player to really stand out.
Yeah. And then
Um,
kind of something that kind of came to me on the offensive rookie of the year conversation. This is what we saw last year. Puka Nakua was a rookie
oh
last
yeah,
year, came out and broke the reception record, was doing all these wonderful
mhm.
things, CJ Stroud led his team to the playoffs and ends up winning the award. So I think the exact same thing is going to happen this year, where we see Jaden Daniels win it and Brock Bowers, unfortunately, not. That's just kind of,
That's unfortunate.
yeah.
I get it. It's the NFL is a quarterback league.
Yep.
So sometimes you live and die by the quarterback, and the awards do the same. So
That is.
I don't know that that's wrong. I just think there are moments where, like we talked about the MVP this year, or Rookie of the Year. I think there are clear. I think in its own right, for me as a voter, that would make it easier. If you're sitting there going, I don't know how to pick between Lamar and Josh Allen. Cool, don't pick Saquon.
I guess
Problem
that's.
solved.
I guess that's a
Um,
thought.
like,
You know,
you know what I
it's
mean?
it's something. It's definitely
just,
something.
just making it a little easier on everybody.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so I just think we could, but yeah, it's a quarterback league. We see that all the time, and Brock Bowers knows it. So
Yeah.
I don't think he's sitting there. I don't think he's gonna be super upset if he doesn't win it. I just definitely think he very much deserves it.
Yes.
Alrighty. Moving on to less happy note. You briefly mentioned it. Talk about Black Monday because we will not have another show before then. Monday immediately following the regular season. If your team is not in the playoffs and you are going to get fired, it happens on that Monday. They don't wait. They do it then. Gives you the last chance to address the team. And let's move the fuck on. You have to consider like the Rooney rule, all of the regulations it takes to hire a head coach and GMs. So they want to do it as fast as possible. That's why it's called Black Monday. Teams we think 100% will be participating.
Yeah.
The Saints, Jacksonville.
Jacksonville will absolutely fire
Brendan
their
is
head coach.
really hoping the Seahawks participate. The Giants have a really good case too.
Yep.
Um, all interim head coaches, just so we're clear, don't have to be fired. They have to technically be hired as the head coach. So the Saints interim, the Jets interim are not fired, but after Black Monday are not the head coach
Yeah. So Jets.
unless they get rehired as the head coach. The Bears head coach, Thomas Brown, like all of those things. So I think guaranteed we're looking at who did I say? Jacksonville
Jacksonville. Possibly the Seahawks. Um.
and
Possibly the. Nope. His contract was expired. Never mind. You said the Saints, but the Saints have a interim guy, so it doesn't matter.
oh yeah, Jacksonville. Jacksonville might be the only guarantee.
Jacksonville, the Seahawks should fire their OC. A bunch of OCs and DCs will end up getting fired. Whether
That's
I'm
pretty
thinking
normal.
the Bengals will probably fire their DC after the season they've had. The
Yes.
um, GMs could be fired, like the Giants GM and coach there. That could happen. Just a lot of firings could take place. It'll matter more after Monday when we know all the things happened. We'll bring as much news as we can that day. But that's really the day that matters.
And then I think you kind of mentioned it. Mike McCarthy doesn't count because his contract
Yes.
just ends. So whether he's retained or not, it is not technically a firing.
Yeah. Whether he's re-signed or not, we'll see.
So definitely going to be an interesting one. And then there are teams that are in the playoffs that either could still let somebody go or will lose coordinators to head coaching jobs or other situations.
Once they're eliminated, yes.
Yeah. Um, I think the only team in the playoffs that could potentially let someone go is the Eagles.
Okay.
If the Eagles go one and done in the playoffs,
Oh, I
I
see.
think there's a chance Sirianni gets fired.
Yes. That won't happen on Black Monday, but that will happen at
No,
some point. Once they're eliminated,
I just
that
think
could happen.
that is the potential. Everybody else, I don't think's getting fired, no matter what they do in the playoffs.
That's fair. It
You may have people move on, like Ben Johnson maybe move on.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think of the playoff teams, there are people that will move on. I just think the only one
Yeah.
who's on the hot seat is
Could be.
potentially Sirianni.
Yeah. Black Monday really tends to be a coordinator firing thing or people that matter less. It's not tend to be head coach like unless the head coach has made it through the rest of the
Head
season.
coaches
It
get fired plenty on Black Monday.
it tends to be more now, especially that they get fired mid-season and then you just have like
Yeah,
interims
like
leaving.
I feel like now we don't see the mass exodus we used to because more people are like, "Fuck it, we'll fire you in season."
Yeah. So it tends to be more coordinators
Yeah,
and people that kind of don't matter like your pass game people, your underneath guys. You do still have head coaches make
random
it,
coaches.
but for the most part, it tends to be the assistant coaches,
Yeah,
not head coaches. But we'll
cool,
see.
cool, cool, cool. Well, then, anything over week 16 and 17 that stood out to you?
Not really. We covered a lot of um, just like the playoffs and where we're heading with awards. So I think that is pretty much it
We
in terms of
finally
NFL.
saw Michael Penix.
Yeah, Mike Penix had his first start, got the win. Looked okay. Had his second start, that didn't go as well, and I'm losing to the Commanders. But still looked pretty solid. Looked better than Kirk Cousins did. So
Yep. I mean,
something for
he
the
came
Falcons, I
in
guess.
week 16. You can only have so many expectations.
Yeah,
Um, I think he moves in the pocket well. I see good fundamentals, good
definitely,
habits,
definitely still has some work to be
but
done. Um,
absolutely,
but
you're a
also,
rookie that didn't start till week 16.
um,
So
and unfortunately, they are a playoff contender still. They could still make the playoffs. So it's unfortunate for him, but I think we'll see where that goes. But congrats to him on starting the past 2 weeks.
any thoughts on whether or not Aaron Rodgers should return to the Jets or if they should hire Ron Rivera?
I think I've made my opinion on what the Jets should do very clear by this point. If Rodgers returns to the team, the Jets are not a serious franchise and not a serious team and should just kind of be forgotten about if they
That's
let
fair.
that happen. Because he is
That
not good.
is
He's not it for that team. I I will stand by that wholeheartedly. And hiring Ron Rivera is not a choice either. That is not something I would do. I think he's proven significantly, say a significant amount of times that he's not a head coach in the league anymore. He
yeah.
was at one point. He also had MVP Cam Newton when he was coaching at his best. So I mean, like, sure. So yeah, for the Jets, I think you just blow it all up. At this point, you already pretty much have. I think you just go further, get rid of your quarterback, and try to regain everything you can, rather than. But at the end of the day, you might just have to cut him, might just have to blow it all up, and I think
That's
that's
fair.
what they should do.
That is fair. I second the motion. Crap. Move on. All right. Well, then, do you we let's look. All right, and let's look ahead to week 18, the
Yeah,
final week of the regular season of the NFL.
yeah.
Brennan,
So obviously, Seahawks not playing for anything other than pride, so they take on the Rams 125 Sunday in LA. The Rams have already confirmed that they are not playing most of their starters. Jimmy Garoppolo is projected to start at quarterback for them. Not projected, confirmed to start at quarterback for them. The Seahawks plan on starting all of their starters. That is just a thing. There are guys that want incentives, like Geno Smith has a couple incentives. The team has just some incentives. So expect most of the starters to play for the whole game. Maybe at halftime, if things are going well, they kind of swap it out, bring in some younger guys, some guys that don't play as much. But that's pretty much what we're looking at. This game is purely for pride, and I do expect the Seahawks to get the win. I will not do a preview video this week. I don't see the point
It's fair.
in doing that. I do expect the Seahawks to win against the Rams second string, but we'll see, especially with the Seahawks starting. And then for my game of the week, I'm going for possibly the best game of the week and possibly the game of the year, depending on how it goes out. I'm doing Minnesota versus Detroit. I did kind of snag that from Dallas as a possibility,
Yeah,
purely because the Rams and the Seahawks don't really have anything going on.
it's fair.
So that's Sunday Night Football. Should be fantastic. Should be an awesome game. Can't wait for that one. Just because that's gonna be probably the two best teams in the league. Well, two of the best teams in the league going head to head, throwing blows, to determine who gets the NFC's bye. So should be fantastic.
Heck yeah. All right. For Baltimore, they are at home versus. So Saturday is the Battle of the North. Is really what's happening. Um, Baltimore is at home versus Cleveland at 1:30 p.m. Eastern or Pacific time, so 4:30 p.m. Eastern. And Pittsburgh versus Cincinnati Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific, so 8 p.m. Eastern. I am going to watch that because the Ravens are fighting for the North. Their game against the Browns matter. No, I am not going to do a preview video. I do think at this point we are probably done with preview videos for this season. We will have plenty of time to talk about playoffs and each team and each game. We will pick those back up during the regular season next year,
Yeah.
unless we come up with a topic that we find needs that. But I do think preview videos are done for the season.
Yeah.
Um, Cleveland hasn't announced who is going to be starting at quarterback. It worked last time. Don't think it's going to work for you
They
this
have
time.
actually announced
Oh,
recently
they announced
that
it.
Bailey Zappi is starting.
If the Ravens lose this game, I will just throw myself off a cliff. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Thanks.
Yeah, that was confirmed earlier this morning.
They keep doing that to the Ravens. They're like, if we just change quarterbacks, you don't really know what's going on. But the Ravens are playing at a really great level, so I do expect the win. They are playing for something. The Browns, I can't really say playing for pride when you're starting Zappy. So good luck with that.
Yeah.
And then Pittsburgh versus Cincinnati. This game is important. Cincinnati needs the win, but Joe Burrow is historically terrible against the division. So,
We will see.
um, and Pittsburgh is getting ready to lose its fourth straight loss in a row, which would be pretty disappointing. So I do think that game, I will pretty much be watching the 3-game parlay that determines the final seed in the AFC. I will keep an eye on Miami Jets. Not going to watch it too closely. I don't waste my time on useless shit. I will watch a little bit of Broncos Chiefs and yeah, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati.
Sounds
So that
good.
we know how the final AFC playoff picture looks.
Awesome. Solid. Solid, solid, solid.
Nice. We got a good final week of the NFL.
Yeah. And other than the NFL, we got college football and we got college football playoffs. So we'll talk about that now. Week one was a couple weeks ago. Started off with Notre Dame beating Indiana 27-17. Pretty solid game for the Irish. Um, Huge win for them. Indiana talked a lot of shit beforehand and got it thrown back at them. Kind of funny to me, if anyone saw it. The Indiana head coach went on College Game Day with Pat McAfee before the game. Was talking shit about how they beat top 25 teams, all this stuff. If you're going to talk the shit, you better be able to back it up. They did not. It is kind of funny. So congrats to Notre Dame on the win. Congrats to Indiana for making it this far. Huge success for them, considering they are not a football school, and this is the first time they've ever made the playoffs. First time in really school history they've done anything with football. So congrats to them anyway. Penn State then beat SMU 38-10. Uh, Penn State is just a really good football team. SMU was kind of lucky to get into the playoffs. Um, so no real surprise there. Texas beat Clemson 38-24. Another just ass beating. Um, Texas is another good football team. Clemson, once again, kind of lucky to get in. Not that surprising. And then the last ass beating of the week was OSU beat Tennessee 42-17. Um, Ohio State is just an insane football team. They are really good, doing a lot of great things, and they just whooped Tennessee's ass. So we had talked about previously how the college football should reseed. They didn't have to. Everything went chalk. The higher seeds won, or the lower seeds. I mean, the I guess top seeds won their games, so didn't have to reseed. But we'll get into week 2, and the people asking for the reseed kind of got their shit ran. Uh, Penn State versus Boise State. Penn State wins 31-14. Boise put up a hell of a fight. Ashton Genty was pretty much held in check for most of the game. I think Penn State really went out there and were like, we're not going to let him beat us, and they didn't. He does not get Barry Sanders' record. He came up pretty close, but not quite there. Think needed another like 30 yards to get it, but Penn State really went out there with the sole purpose of shut him down, and we should win the game. And they executed great. So Penn State moves on to the semis. Texas beats Arizona State in a fantastic game that goes to double overtime with just an incredible game. Arizona at one point was trailing 24-8. They come back to force double overtime. Texas just proves too much in the overtime period, double overtime period as well. So they get the win 39-31. Congrats to Texas. They await the winner of the next of Georgia and Notre Dame, which is happening currently. And then Ohio State beat Oregon 41-21, and just an absolute ass whooping. This game was 34-8 at the half. Um, Ohio State just beat Oregon, who was undefeated coming into this game. Um, Really interesting that Oregon got their shit ran. They came off the bye. They had a full week and a half to prepare, and they sucked. It was not good. They came out stale. They came out flat, and they straight up got their ass beat. It was kind of funny, and they were the ones that wanted the reseed to happen. And it wouldn't have mattered. You still would have gotten Ohio State. I do think this does show kind of the issues with college football and how they're ranked. Considering Ohio State is the 8th ranked team in the nation, and they just absolutely put it on the number 1 team in the nation, does kind of show the flaws in the ranking system. I don't think OSU is the 8th ranked team in the nation. They're much better than that. It does kind of suck for Oregon, but at the same time, you were the number 1 team in the nation. You had the bye. You had a week to prepare for this. You should have been ready. There was really no excuse to getting your shit ran like you did. But
Yeah.
congrats to OSU for beating on Oregon. So next week will be Penn State versus OSU, Ohio State, and Texas versus winner of Georgia Notre Dame, which is currently being played. Obviously, it was supposed to be played yesterday, but a tragic incident prevented that from happening in New Orleans. So, thoughts and prayers to everyone involved in that incident. If you don't know what we're talking about, I suggest you go do your own research.
Yeah.
But
We're not gonna.
we're not going to delve too deep into it. But tragic incident in New Orleans.
we're not
postpone
going to
this
give
game.
media attention to people that don't deserve it.
Yeah,
But genuinely, hearts and prayers
yeah.
with everybody affected and um, injured in that situation, and know that you are loved and supported, and we are
Yeah.
genuinely sorry for what you're going through.
So to the city of New Orleans, hope you pull through. This game is being played now. It is currently 0-0 with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock in the first quarter. So should be a good
Just
game.
43 seconds, actually, and Notre Dame is driving down the field.
Okay.
It's not up and next to me and on or anything. It's
I had
just
it on
I
and
didn't know
turned it
what's
off.
happening. Gotcha.
Don't get me wrong. I had it on. The noise was even playing. I was going to ask you if you could
Oh,
hear it.
I could
'Cause I
not. Mine's
okay.
muted. I'm just.
I didn't realize I had noise on and it was going. So I did have it up.
Oh,
Um, I turned it off to be professional, but apparently that doesn't exist here. Um, yeah, you're right. ESPN
we're all
lied to
just watching.
ESPN is behind. That's what I
Ah,
looked. That's what I looked at to see the score and stuff. But that being said, Notre Dame does have the ball. 21 seconds left. Should be good game. So we'll see what happens.
yeah.
And again, the winner of this awaits Texas in the next round.
So,
What happened?
oh no, just like
Oh,
thinking about the Texas game.
oh, yeah. Texas almost losing to Arizona State
So
was definitely interesting. Definitely, definitely interesting. Yesterday was some interesting games. It was some interesting games. Definitely did not
it was
see
a good
Ohio
day. It was
State absolutely
weird.
just
Yeah,
putting belt
rolling
to
Georgia.
ass on Oregon.
Oh, Georgia. It's because the G flashed up on my phone. It's not my fault. I was like Georgia, and then I was like, no, fuck. um, yeah. So I didn't expect that. I was surprised. I remember you showed me the score at one point. We were watching something else. And I had to like look at your phone like 5 times because I didn't believe I was seeing that right.
Yeah,
Um,
I think at that point it was like 31-0, and there was still
yeah,
2-ish minutes or 4-ish minutes left in the half. Um, it was definitely a very surprising game to us, along with
yeah.
the Texas game. Didn't think Arizona State would give Texas the game they did. At one point, I thought Arizona State had it, but they did show their inexperience in that overtime with that fourth down.
Yeah.
But you know,
It's I think it's one of those. It's where college football is still not at the NFL's level. I'm not saying that there won't be blowouts or there won't be teams that get bounced early, but the later in the playoffs you get, the more evenly matched those teams are. And in college playoffs, the way the divisions are kind of broken up or the conferences are broken up, people are still getting rolled on right now, and you see the clear lack of talent between the two teams.
yeah, it was definitely. I do think the games will get better next week once
Yeah,
we get to the final four. But um, so yeah, we'll definitely be watching. I'll definitely be watching it. It's been pretty solid so far. Definitely been some blowouts, so I haven't been thrilled. But hey ho, it's college football. What are you gonna do?
heck yeah. Anything else for us on the week?
I
Any other
don't think
sporting news, topics, complaints that
no.
you have?
You know, the Nuggets played the other day. They did well.
They did.
Um, we'll talk far more about basketball once the NFL season's really done.
Yep.
Hockey has been the same thing. Avs have been doing well. So
Hopefully they have their goalie situation
they should
figured out. They've been
at this
playing
point.
better since.
They're like 9-1 in their last 10. And the new goalie situation definitely helps. Considering their main one is like 5-1, and that one game he lost was a like 1-0 win, or it was like 2-0.
But that's not really his fault.
Yeah,
That's Like, what the fuck is Rantanen doing? Like, that's the questions you have to ask at that point.
You know,
Is
you gave your team a
Rantanen,
chance.
McKinnon, and McCarr, somebody do something.
Yeah, you know, you gave your team a chance. That's all they can ask for. So
Yeah,
that's pretty much it for sports.
nice.
Uh,
We will talk obviously probably college basketball come March.
yeah, how
And
much March Madness is.
um I, like everybody else in the rest of the world, am watching Page Brewers, but that's pretty much it. So we'll talk more of that when March comes.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like that does it for us. We hope you guys enjoyed this week. Tons to discuss as we go into
Next
the
week
final
in
week of
the
the NFL.
yeah. All right. So that being said, I think that really does us here. Does it here for us today. Don't forget subscribe, comment. Um, Again, sorry for not doing this last week. Did do this week, so you know, make sure to comment, subscribe, let us know, especially with the NFL coming to an end here soon, especially the regular season. Let us know what you think about the playoffs, who you think the MVP, uh, all the awards will go to. We'd love to hear your opinion.
Yeah,
And that being
let
said,
us know.
I've been Brendan,
And I've been Dallas.
and this has been the Fox Podcast. Thank y'all.
Bye.
Solid, solid, solid.
Nice.
Solid, solid, solid.